Today is a very special day in Bitcoin's history, a monumental day. Yesterday on January the 10th, the first ever Bitcoin ETF was approved. Well, there was 11 of them actually. And today, 11th of January, is the first ever trading day of a Bitcoin ETF. Now, these ETFs have been hyped for months and months now as the catalyst that will open the floodgates for unimaginable amounts of institutional capital. And this excitement is probably warranted. If you look anywhere on social media, everyone is extremely bullish about the future of Bitcoin, given the fact that this ETF will now allow, like we said, large institutional players to hopefully pour capital investments into the Bitcoin space. So what can we really expect from a Bitcoin ETF? Obviously, everyone's saying this is great news. This is going to massively increase the Bitcoin price, but do we have any comparisons we can go by to maybe get an idea of how bullish an event this is? And the only really thing that comes close is the launch of the gold ETF. So the gold ETF was launched in the US on November 18th, 2004. It was previously available in a number of other countries, but given the fact that we already have somewhat similar Bitcoin products in other countries, today the main focus is on the US ETF launch. We're going to look at this November 18th, 2004 date for gold to try and get a little bit of a comparison so we can maybe understand how bullish an event this is for Bitcoin. So if we look to gold on that date, I've just got the TradingView chart up here. We can see that the gold price was around $440 at the time. And it gave us a market cap of around 2.1 trillion, just by the fact that there was about 150,000 tons of gold available at that time. And we could see from this date, we saw gold have an exponential bull rally that actually lasted about 7 years. And saw price increase about 330%, which is an absolutely monumental gain, especially for a more traditional asset like gold, a more traditional commodity. So what we can do is look to this example of gold. It's 330% price increase over a 7-year period, and kind of apply that to Bitcoin to maybe get an idea of how that might look. So if we just look at the Bitcoin market cap, we can see on this chart here, compared to gold and a number of other assets, Bitcoin's market cap is around $900 billion. It has increased slightly post ETF announcement, so we'll just use the $900 billion figure. Gold currently is 13.69 trillion, but like we said, at the time, just at the ETF approval for the first gold ETF, it was about 2.1 trillion. Something we also need to take into account is that once this gold ETF was launched, like we said, it was about 7 years or 2,485 days. But one thing that's really interesting with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general is these are 24-hour-a-day markets. Even if the ETF isn't necessarily trading, we're going to see huge out of regular trading hours swings. In the New York Stock Exchange, the average week is about a 32.5-hour trading week. This is excluding holidays, any other trading breaks. So Bitcoin, being a 24-hour asset 7 days a week, is trading about 5 times more than gold. So if we assume, due to the smaller market cap of Bitcoin compared to gold at this time, about 2.35 times smaller, and we also take into account that Bitcoin maybe trades about 5 times quicker than gold, just the availability of trading Bitcoin on a 24-hour basis. If we were to just apply this price action onto Bitcoin to see how this would look going forward, how does that actually look? So using those figures from before, we can say that if Bitcoin is 2.35 times smaller and gold saw a 330% increase in price post ETF, that we could maybe optimistically expect about a 775.5% price increase in Bitcoin just due to this ETF approval. And also taking into account that gold took about 7 years. If Bitcoin was over 5 times quicker, 5.17 times quicker, it would actually only take 481 days to follow a similar path of price action. So overlaying that onto the Bitcoin price as we currently are today, we can see, might need to zoom out a little bit here, that the Bitcoin price action, if it was to mimic gold following that ETF approval, would look something like this. Absolutely exponential run up to the upside, especially considering it would actually respect Bitcoin's previous all-time high as a level of support and resistance, and would also have a run up right around the halving date. So maybe we'd see a run up prior to that and a little bit of a post-halving dump, but then we'd see Bitcoin continue, obviously with about 40 to 50% price retracement from $160 to about $87,000 before Bitcoin tops out in around May 2025 at a price of $400,000. Now, is this likely? Probably not. We're being very optimistic here, of course, using the figures that we saw from that gold chart, and also assuming that all things being equal, we see similar capital inflows. But you also have to take into account that Bitcoin is such a scarce, illiquid asset. We can see this hodl wave chart here, that Bitcoin that hasn't moved in a 6-month period sits at over 80%. Less than 20% of Bitcoin is being traded on a biannual basis. So this is probably the scarcest asset that's ever been publicly traded as an ETF, as a commodity ETF, especially considering the institutional interest, the amount of ETFs that were approved simultaneously, the competitive pricing of these ETFs, given the fact that we're seeing absolutely minimal fees. Really, it's such an exciting period of time to be in Bitcoin, to see this ETF approval, see this monumental day. And as I film this, there is just under 6 hours to go until the New York Stock Exchange opens, and we can really see, if we do see institutional inflows, these huge capital amounts coming into the Bitcoin ETF to hopefully drive up price exponentially higher. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. And make sure to check out all the resources we discussed today, as well as the many more that are all available on lookintobitcoin.com, your #1 source for Bitcoin information. So just to summarize, the long-awaited spot Bitcoin ETFs have finally been approved, with many investors optimistic about their potential to bring huge institutional capital inflows into a truly scarce asset of BTC. And our most comparable historical reference is the gold ETF launch of 2004. And if Bitcoin were to follow a similar trajectory, we can expect a rapid and sustained price ascension imminently. Looking at that gold chart, we could see if Bitcoin were to take into account the increased trading hours, the considerably smaller market cap that gives us considerably more room for exponential growth, we could potentially be looking at $400,000 Bitcoin as early as May 2025. And as I said, this is all fairly speculative for the time being. Please take all of this with a grain of salt. We are assuming that things stay very similar to the gold ETF, but market dynamics have, of course, changed over the past 15, nearly 20 years now. So really, we'll have to wait a little bit to actually gauge the current interest by these large institutional players in the Bitcoin ETF before we get too excited. Hopefully over the next couple days, as we see the New York Stock Exchange open, we do start to see money pouring in and huge demand for these products. But for now, this is a little bit speculative, but overall, I think we should be very bullish on the future of Bitcoin. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can also consider becoming a site subscriber to gain access to professional resolution charts, advanced macro and portfolio data tools, in-depth crypto industry reports, live and personalized indicator alerts, private TradingView scripts, and much more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. And let me know down in the comments below and on social media, what are your thoughts on this Bitcoin ETF approval? Do you think it is actually as bullish an event as everyone is hoping it will be? Or do you think we're maybe overestimating the impact of this launch? As I said, let me know. I look forward to reading and replying to all of them. Thank you all very much for tuning into this special ETF upload video. Thank you all so much for watching once again, and I'll see you in the next one.